All right. A very good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar on forging global partnership for disaster risk reduction. Today, we are here to discuss one of the most pressing issues facing our world, disasters, and the devastating impact that they have on our communities, which is like known to all of us. Like disasters are an unfortunate reality that we must face, but we must also work together to mitigate their impact and reduce the risk that they pose on societies. To do this, one of the way is to collaborate and form partnerships that bring together the expertise, knowledge, and resources from different organizations, governments, and individuals. Uh, International collaboration is very crucial for effective DRR, mainly because it's disasters do not respect national boundaries. Yeah, and natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, and floods, they have potential to affect multiple countries. And in today's interconnected world, the impact of these disasters can quickly spread beyond the national borders. Hence, collaboration between nations do allow for sharing of knowledge, resources like funds, expertise in the field of DM and risk reduction. I mean, through all these ways, we can lead to a development of better strategies for disaster preparedness, response, and recovery, and as well as the implementation of more effective early warning systems when it comes to disaster risk reduction. And through international collaboration, there is a need to ensure that most vulnerable communities are not left behind in the efforts, and that the need of most affected by disasters are taken into account. So let's just to pinpoint some of the like the rationale, or the crucial part of international collaboration. Some of it, one, it could be like the shared of knowledge and expertise. Other could be resource and funding, and cooperation and coordination that comes along with this, and how it address the transboundary risks, and also strengthening of global resilience. So in short, international collaboration, it's essential to address the complex and interconnected challenges posed by disasters, particularly in an interconnected world like today. So to discuss all this and this topic, we Sphere Inter Academy, in collaboration with Climate Action Resource Network Asia Pacific, CARN-AP, and Puri Pani Network, is organizing this virtual discourse on the topic Forging Global Partnership for DRR. This webinar is an excellent opportunity for all of us to learn from experts in the field of DRR and to explore how we can work together to build a stronger collaboration and, in turn, a more resilient community. So once again, thank you everyone for joining today. And interestingly, this would be a last webinar in this particular series, which we are conducting in collaboration with CARN-AP. Looking back to the previous 8 sessions that we had, we covered a wide range of topics, like starting from science and tech in DRR, community-based disaster risk reduction, risk finance and insurance. We discussed about macro policies, and even nature-based solutions. And it was very interesting sessions. There was a lot of learnings happening. And I believe this session would also be, one among that. I'm sure that it would open a lot of newer perspectives and would help all of us, in our fight towards disaster resilience. So before starting, I would like to briefly introduce the fantastic lineup of experts that we have today who will be sharing their insights and experience. So starting with Mr. Subhashish Roy, he's a program manager, Lutheran Disaster Response International. He's an international humanitarian practitioner with strong academic and extensive experience of 19 years in humanitarian program management, integration of principled humanitarian response through climate resilience, quality and accountability, core humanitarian standards, disaster readiness and disaster preparedness, and response plan are his areas of expertise. Currently leading and managing Q&A standards in disaster relief operations, disaster risk reduction, resilience and thematic specialization on food security, WASH, shelter, protection principles, cash transfer modality, and human resource management with Asia, East Africa, Europe, and Latin America region. He is also serving as certified international trainer on SPHERE, CHS, DRR, and resilience. He is a specialist in working in different response options such as cash transfer, in-kind or service-oriented humanitarian response. We are so glad to have you here, sir. Thank you so much for coming to our session. Moving on, we have our next speaker, Mr. Sri Ramappa Gonchikara, Country Director, Unite Purpose Bangladesh. Over the course of his 15-year career, Mr. Sri Ramappa has gained international experience in humanitarian and development situations with a focus on inclusive education, sustainable livelihood, community-based natural resource management, market development, and enterprise-based development based on agriculture value chains, corporate partnerships, promoting inclusive and sustainable supply chains, child rights, disaster risk reduction, and CCA. He has worked with a variety of organizations, including NGOs, INGOs, and civil society organizations, private sector companies, and international development agencies. Currently, he's working as a disaster risk reduction specialist with major international organizations in India, collaborating with local and national partners to build resilience to future crises. His extensive experience and expertise have been instrumental in promoting international collaboration and building effective partnerships across sectors and organizations to address development challenges and promote sustainable development. We are very glad to have you also at the session, sir. Welcome to the session.
Thank you.
So without any further delay, I would like to move on, start our session, and over to Dr. Aniruddha.
Thank you, Hannah. It's a pride that I could moderate this session, and where Mr. Ramappa and Mr. Subhashish Roy, both stalwarts, are present. So let me just say a few words. Like CARN-AP is it is climate. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, you are.
CARN-AP is actually Climate Action Resource Network Asia Pacific, and already we have 142 members from different Asia Pacific countries, and it's a network. Basically, we have been thinking that people's voice should bring. People should say. It is not that we are so. Our role should be limited to facilitation, not more than that. So, however, there are lots of debates and all these things, but those who actually agree to this thing, our concept and all, they have joined. And here with us, there is another small network in Puri district of Odisha. So they have been working very hard on water issues. So in Puri today, it's a very, we talk about water scarcity, but we need to go and see how people are facing the problems. So however, all these things are there. So Puri Pani Network, on behalf of that, so they have facilitated the whole session, and on behalf of that, Mr. Umakanto Mohanty is present. I believe there are others too are present in that. So now my role is to just keep the time, put the questions. So I have 3 questions to Mr. Rama. So 3 questions basically. First question is importance of international collaboration for forging partnership to strengthen disaster resilience, and what are the key challenges in building effective partnership. So over to Ramappa, and we have 2 more questions. So I'll ask Ramappa to just actually give emphasis and help the participants to learn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aniruddha, for all the praise. So I am delighted to be part of this webinar. I mean, in fact, after a long time, I am participating in some of these webinars, which are more linked to the India itself directly. I have not been in touch with the Indian civil society organization for many years after I moved out of India in 2011 onwards as a citizen. But it's a great opportunity to be there. So first of all, my presentation, I would just like to share about landscape for funding. I mean, the funding landscape, how it has been fast changing and fast. It is a very dynamic kind of a situation. What used to be a traditional kind of a international NGOs of supporting small community-based organizations or local NGOs who have their own independent agenda, to that kind of situation. Now we are moved much far into a different kind of situation. Globally, I mean, we are always faced with conflicts and crisis and conflict-led crisis across. That tends to drive how the limited money which is available for aid and development is always allocated or moves across as a kind of reason. So we got at any point of time, I mean, if you look at all the JRPs, joint resource planning, and different of the UN system, UN OCHA, which comes in, we struggle to get 50% of it being funded in any year. For example, in Rohingya response in Bangladesh, currently, I mean, we got some 37% of your plans from all the organizations. That's the amount of funding in this one. There is always competing demands and the funding that comes from different aid budgets of different governments and both multilateral and organizations. So now, I mean, any new crisis will take over the struggle for relief. I mean, this time, for example, in the Rohingya refugees in Cox's Bazar. So after the Turkey earthquake, so WFP has announced that though we talk about humanitarian standards and other kind of reason, so WFP announcing that per capita food budget is reduced from $19 to now almost $9 or $10 per head as a kind of reason. So that's a big change that happens when the crisis happens. I mean, so that's the kind of a reality. We are always in a situation where the whatever limited money is available across at the disposal of the different government, different international agencies is always to be, but that there is always a tendency to push for more immediate crisis, more burning situations, particularly, I mean, high impact disasters. I mean, was it the Ukraine war? It dominated for several years, and almost the last 1.5 years, and then soon after that, the recent earthquake in Turkey. I mean, like that, they keep moving from place to place as a kind of thing. So in that kind of a context, I mean, how do we change the reality is always a challenge. So disasters resilience is also compounded by the climate crisis now, which is another big driver for all the kind of this one. How, I mean, the frequency of the disasters and everything is increasing with the climate related changes. So that is also another challenge. I mean, there is more recurring disasters, recurring frequency of all of that as a concern that demands more loss, more damages to the property, and how that can be addressed as a kind of reason. But with all the climate negotiations and some of the recent changes also gives us an opportunity for climate finance. There are different kinds of this one climate finance. We don't want to get into the details, but climate finance and disaster risk resilience are quite strongly interlinked for many of the disasters as a kind of thing. So there is an opportunity to work around that as part of this one. While most of the traditional fundraising by NGOs is getting into decline, more and more people, individual donors have almost been coming down very drastically compared to what it used to support both in disasters and for development related work as a kind of this one. So how that can happen is a big challenge. In the context of this one, most of the donors, particularly the governments. So we are in the last 15 years, almost there is a rise of more conservative, more right-wing governments across by and large in many of the countries. I mean, as a kind of thing. So that also has its own impact on how the development resources, development aid budgets are allocated. You talk about the UK government's aid cuts in the recent years. and how FCDO has shrunken into a less important kind of an organization. So these are some of the real challenges which are there in terms of the overall money that is available in the kind of this one. And then INGOs are struggling to survive. I mean, number of INGOs are declining day by day. They have to merge or exit as they are not able to cope with managing the kind of a complex, their own survival and sustenance, as well as making an impactful programs as a kind of merger among international agencies that happens more and more, and the number of organizations are likely to decline. And we are in the government situations where we have not everywhere it is a welcome kind of an opportunity, but particularly we have a situation in India like that. Functioning of civil society organizations is not easy at all anymore. I mean, as a kind of so getting into a racket of compliances and other things which are almost impossible to exit makes it many of the serious development organizations to exit from development itself as a kind of so in that kind of a context, I mean, how do we really deal with that as a kind of this one to get this one? While international funding with all these challenges, the localization is one of the key agenda for all international agencies. As in terms of the government funding, all donors, they talk about localization. Some of them started early, some of them started a little late. Now the more latest kind of thing is of course even USAID, which was giving large grants to more of private sector contractors and other kind of this one for big funding. So now at least they are starting to talk about more diversified funding basis to more localization of their funding. They want to measure themselves again. And this is also an agenda which is picked up globally across as a convention. So how can we strengthen the localization funding? The two primary actors in this whole process. I mean, though we do talk about international governments and UN agencies and everybody have got their own role to play, but we cannot wish away. I mean, the communities, of course, being the one who are most affected and impacted, they are the most primary stakeholders, and the governments are duty bearers. They are accountable for making things happen as a kind of reason. So these are the two primary stakeholders. How do you make it possible to make it enabling environment? As the middle income countries are growing, more and more middle income countries are this one. There is also a tendency to by the government to say that, oh, now we are no more poor, or sometimes we say that we are superpower. We are likely to be the next superpower as a kind of thing. And getting into a kind of an argument of this one that I mean, showing poverty is degrading the country or demeaningful. We're not talking about showing poverty, but making the needs of the most marginalized people and communities, how we can make that happen. So that is something which is very critical at this point of time. So there are many challenges for the local NGOs to continue to sustain and make this kind of a disaster risk resilience kind of an interventions and more sustainable work to happen as a kind of reason. There's also this private sector is one of the bigger kind of reason, but private sector is going through its own journey. The CSR initiative, starting from a charity-based PR kind of a model to more serious developmental organization. So it is a journey in itself. Everybody has gone through that journey. So that journey has started for the CSOs, CSR work in India. Some of the is it possible to de-link the CSR and the funding to the philanthropy and then business? There is one. There is also other logic which says that supply chains of the private sector could be integrated and they should be scrutinized based on the developmental principles of inclusion and equity and sustainability, all of that principles. So there are both dimensions of the private sector participation, while the value chains of private sector, wherever it is possible, have to be more inclusive. But if super rich individuals or corporations are talking about philanthropy, the philanthropy should be dealing from business. I mean, one good examples from India, I mean, I can see that the Tata Trusts, Ratan Tata Trust particularly, or even people like Ajim Premji or even HCL, but some of they are trying to become, not to link the business to the philanthropy. So that is leading to more meaningful and serious kind of a developmental programming and processes. So there are a wide range of opportunities, but our civil society organizations has to tune up to the challenge. One of the biggest requirement is upping the communication skills, communication capabilities, communication about our impact, our work. So that is one area which is very much required. in the current era as a kind of sense. So using all the technology and ICT related communication to make it work. So that will, I will stop at this. I think, sorry, I've taken more time. Yeah. Aniruddha, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ramappa. Actually, you have covered all three answers to all three questions you have already given.
Yeah.
So the actually for the participants, I must tell that the second question was, what are some of the key priorities for action in disaster risk reduction in the coming years, and how can we ensure that these priorities are addressed on a global scale? Third question was, how can we ensure that the other efforts are inclusive and take into account the needs and perspectives of vulnerable populations such as women, children, and people with disabilities. So you have mentioned lots of things like inclusion, you have said, these things, localization, you have said, but there is a debate going on. Ramappa, it's not, it is not framed as a question, but as a moderator, I am telling you that there is a debate going on in India that whether localization and decentralization are the same thing. So I don't think these are same, because we need to, for me, we need to see that how decentralization was implemented and how was interpreted. So that interpretation was very much important. So, however, Ramappa, if you would like to just throw some lights on this, so would be nice.
Yeah, I think decentralization of governance is, of course, is one of the primary requirements for any of the processes. I mean, we have the PRI institutions as part of one of our processes, which have just gone a long way, but still there are ways of centralization within decentralization as a kind of this one, and then replication of all the problems of the higher level, this one being an MLA or an MP or some of the political and so-called elected political leaders, even at the micro level, they behave exactly like an MP, MLA or an MP, and then all the some of the issues around corruption and everything goes down to the decentralization level. I mean, how we can transform into a genuine accountability to the communities of even the local governance organizations. That is particularly to the most marginalized groups in terms of the inclusion. Now, we talked about Dalits, ethnic groups and indigenous communities, disabled organizations and the people and women, all of them. I mean, their voices need to be heard. So there has to be a kind of a pressure groups or organizations of themselves to be articulated, even children and youth also, their voices, their participation to be part of the kind of thing. So there has to be voices of they have to consult organizing spaces for them, build their understanding and their ability to engage with the governance structures to make it accountable. I mean, there's no shortcut to that. So that process has to happen. And we used to say, "Adhikar to chin liya jata hai, diya nahi jata." It is not possible. Nobody can give you. Your rights have to be taken. So that's the only way, I mean, which can work in the long term.
Yeah. Thank you, Ramappa. Before coming to Mr. Roy, I have one more small thing, that is, you have already mentioned that the approaches of the rightist governments all over the world now. And as you have mentioned that this thing, the middle income countries and all these things. So they just want to show their power. Nothing. I don't see any substantial point in that. So, however, one important message I believe I would come to Mr. Roy, because he has worked with CARE International, and CARE International was a party to was a collaborator actually. The World Bank floated a concept that was tri-sector partnership arrangement, and it was with DFID, and CARE International was UK was the secretariat for this. So tri-sector partnership management is very important if you do not work with the local level governments, and if you do not okay, I have money so I can do anything, and that is what actually INGOs are doing. So in most of the cases, not all. So coming to Mr. Subhashish Roy, So about the first question is, how can international collaboration support in achieving global targets like SDGs, SFDRR, etc., especially in developing countries? Should I repeat?
Okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be part of this particular group. Just to highlight that when we are talking about the Sustainable Development Goals or the Sendai framework, basically these concepts came late, the
Just
late
one moment, sir.
90s.
Sorry to interrupt. Actually, if you want to continue with the flow, so that's why let me just share all three questions together. I have shared with you in person, but all the participants should know. The next question is, what are some of the strategies for local NGOs and CBOs to establish effective international collaboration for disaster risk reduction? And third question is, how can different stakeholders, including governments, NGOs, private sector, and communities, work together to build effective partnership for disaster risk reduction? This third question is to some extent related with what I have said as tri-sector partnership management, and I would love to know something more from you. Thank you.
Yeah. So when we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals and the Sendai framework, for which each and every organization in the country is committed to, as far as 192 countries that I am working with right now, I must say that everyone is committed towards these two components. But we need to also understand that when these particular concepts came into being, actually. So if you see the little bit, I will not take much time, but if you go through the history of the humanitarian response, strategic humanitarian response started that 1945 onwards after the Second World War, when the different organizations came into action and they have started about the relief operations. But individual efforts, whatever they were giving, that was not leading towards the desired results. And as a result of that, when there was so much of different evaluations happen, different, the monitoring process happened, it realized that there were, the coordination, lack of coordination. So lack of coordination, lack of collaboration. So that particular time, it was around 1990, 92, when a lot of, the civil rights violations were happening. That particular time, it was realized that, there is a need for collaboration. So the joint evaluation happened for the humanitarian response part. And after that, it realized that there was no collaboration between the international NGOs or donor agencies, whatever you call. And that has led to the birth of Sphere initiative in that particular time. And after that, the different set of the milestones came into being. After CHS HAP came into being, app has been renamed to different other things. Now it is CHS. There are different other, initiative came into being just to bring those collaborations, Quality Compass, People in Aid, so many different, emergency capacity building. So these are the initiative came into being just to bring those coordination within those humanitarian response part. And once this particular part has been established, like, I don't say that it is 100% established, but at least I would say that humanitarian response program is in a much better shape at this particular time. To be very honest, from my point of view, I must say, as compared to the risk reduction measures right now. Now, when the United Nations the transformative agenda came into being approximately around 2004, 2005 onwards, it was a radical change happened in that particular time. And with that particular change, gradually, the things getting geared up along with the emergency response part, somewhat the different kind of the words getting coined up, the disaster risk reduction is taking care of those things. Now, that particular time, the Sustainable Development Goals, the discussions happened, the Sendai framework, which previously it was the Hugo framework or something like that, which all of you must be aware about. Summarizing all these things, I must say that if you look at the Sustainable Development Goal at this particular time, or Sendai framework, just like the humanitarian response standards or the milestones, the efforts of the collaboration, this is also a unique tool, actually, to be very honest, unique tool to collaborate with one another. Sometimes you feel like within NGOs, within INGOs, we always bogged down with our own, international mandates. Like, okay, our organization is committed towards women. Our organization is committed towards children. Our organization is committed towards protection issues. So we are bogged down with so many, our own mandates. Sometimes uh, we we miss the importance of the collaboration part of it, the coordination part of it. Sphere is also one of the platforms where the collaboration is one of the key area that we always promote in most of the training programs that we usually do. Now, coming to this particular question, when you see this particular, Sustainable Development Goals and the Sendai framework, there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. If you remove, for time being, the goal number 17, which is on the partnership part of it, so there are 16 Sustainable Goal, things are there. Now, within these 16, if you see very categorically, each and every goal is interdependent to each other. You cannot talk about the poverty eradication without zero hunger. You cannot talk about the zero hunger unless and until you are not responding to the health crisis or the water sanitation component or the livelihood part of it. So each and every part is connected to each other. Now, whenever you are working, either you are working in health sector or livelihood sector, food security sector, definitely your efforts are contributing not only to one particular sustainable goal, but it is also supplementing to different other sustainable goals also. In a very similar way, when we talk about the Sendai framework, when there are 7 action, the target points are there, each and every target point is also interconnected. Now, if our targets on which we are working is interconnected, then the collaboration part is of key importance to all of us. And that's holds the key why we need to collaborate, because each and every organization doesn't have all the capacities to respond. Now, 2 answers I will give. One, why to join any collaborative effort, global collaborative effort, or regional collaborative effort. The benefits of joining such collaboration is multifaceted, actually. But I will just highlight a couple of things. One, that it really gives you the opportunity to supplement and complement the different other sustainable goals, which are also important along with your own goal on which you are working. So that is the reason why joining a particular collaboration is important. The second thing is that it gives a common platform. That common platform is been made by so many different experts, different groups, different professionals. So when you are joining any particular collaborations, either in a national level, regional level, or global level, it empowers you with so much of information, so much of the ideas that you can also align in your own strategies part of it. The third thing, that these collaborations also help you to align your initiatives with international standards and international minimum standards. That brings out the quality of your program. Once once your quality of the program will improve, definitely your visibility of the program will increase, and that will fetch a lot of eyes from the different donors. I can say, because right now I am working with a donor agency. So these are the things. And finally, the collaborative efforts also help you to mobilize the existing resources which is within their particular collaborative part, or if any additional resources are required. Take the example of so many different networks working right now in the different parts of the world. I'm taking the example not in India or something, but in Asia, where so many different networks are working. One of the things, each and every network sometimes ask for consortium based proposals. In fact, being a donor agency, sometimes ask that don't go for individual ones. It is so difficult actually to manage 500 600 applications across the globe. So why not you can go with a consortium based move. Now, how you will develop this particular consortium? If you are a part of any particular collaborative effort, it will be much easier for you to identify, explore your friends within those collaborations, and you can make those friends and have a consortium to ask for the funds. Eco funding, you can take the example of Eco Start Network in Nepal. If someone is there from Nepal, they can give the example of Start Network. They are also going with the consortium based model actually. So how you will develop this particular thing to get that particular resources? So these are the benefits of having those
Anna, is there any problem in?
Yeah, I think something got
Yes.
muted. I think,
Okay.
Yes, I was thinking it was my issue. So
No. That's why I
he
asked.
got stuck. Yeah.
Okay, no issues. So
can
have
leave and
He
come
patience.
back.
got disconnected. Yeah.
Yeah, have patience. You'll correct. Yeah.
Yeah. He rejoined.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, sir. We
Can you
lost you
hear me
for
now?
some time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I was saying that this is the importance of joining any particular collaboration, either it is a regional level, national level, or the consortium or the global level actually. Looking towards the second question, if I remember correctly, that how um, those NGOs or the CBOs, the grassroots organizations can join those the global collaborations, if I am not wrong. I would say that it depends upon the situation and the conditions on which the NGOs are working. Say, for example, like if one particular NGO who is just new to this particular part, doesn't have any collaborations component, in that case, I would say that the first exercise would be to go for a mapping exercise of the donors and the networks across the nation, region, and the global level, who whose vision and the mission is aligning with your mission, vision, and the understanding. Once you have mapped out that particular part, it will be much easier for you to understand which particular collaboration or which particular collaborative efforts to join with, number one. Number two is that once you know that, say, for example, like my suggestion is that rather than straight away going with a global collaborations part of it, it is always good to make a network within your local community or the national level that helps you to identify and see the different procedures, practices through which the different networks works with. And that definitely will open your doors to go with the global partnership or the global membership. um, I must say that when you are starting any particular collaboration, some of the mistakes that we usually do is that we did some kind of the problem analysis or the need assessment part of it, where our collaborations or the networks are not aware about that. And then after that we approach to the collaborations that, hey guys, can we get some support on all these things? What I suggest is that why not you can start the activities, completing the whole program cycle, starting from the problem analysis or need assessment part of it. One of the component, I agree with the previous presenter that the funding has reduced. I would say that it is not reduced actually. But if you see the overall trend, the humanitarian response part and all these things, the funding has never reduced actually. The funding which the INGOs, UN agencies are getting, that is has increased significantly. But the difference is that along with the increase of the, the funding part of it, the needs of the people during the any emergency response part of it has increased more than the funding part. So there is always a gap between the need and the funding availability, but funding has increased definitely. If you go through the report, the global humanitarian overview report that has came out from the United Nations, you will see that for last 10 years the funding has not reduced, the funding has increased, but the number of the affected population, the number of targeted population during the humanitarian response part has increased, number one. Number two, the unit cost of humanitarian response part has been increased. For example, to meet the basic survival needs for humanitarian response part of it, approximately it was around $100 and $110 up, 4 or 5 years back. That has increased to $190 to $100 per person when you talk about meeting all the needs along with the protection and the gender mainstreaming part of it. So you can see that there is another, the unit cost has also increased along with the number of the people in needs. For example, like in 2022, you must be aware that how many disasters happened in 2022 across the globe. It is 536 plus. So 536, that means if you divide that one by 365, more than one disaster is happening any part of the world sometime. So every day actually. So you can see that the load of the, the humanitarian response part of it. Now, the challenge that we all are facing, and I must admit that people like us, we have not given enough attention to disaster risk reduction component. Apart from the facts that the disaster risk reduction component significantly reduces the cost of the humanitarian response program that we all know. But apart from that, besides our understanding component, we are not able to highlight and increase the allocation in the disaster risk reduction component. I'm giving another discrete example. Couple of years back, there was the total allotment with the as compared to the humanitarian response part, particularly for the natural disaster or climate induced disasters or weather variables disasters. Sorry.
Mr. Joy, you have 2 minutes more because we have to
Yes.
just allow people to interact.
Yes. So if you see that particular part, definitely you can see that, it was 4% actually. The 4% allocation was there globally for the disaster risk reduction. That has now increased approximately around 9 to 10% actually, but that is not enough. We have to make that particular thing possible. And the final one, I must say that the collaboration is the key at this particular time to join hands with the different capacities, different skills, different expertise, different knowledge, different financial capacities to meet our financial and the physical targets, as well as addressing towards the global targets of Sustainable Development Goal and the Sendai framework. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Actually, you have very specifically you wanted to clarify, and that is that the resources distributed that you wanted to say. So, okay, that's fine. And you have also emphasized the importance of collaborative approaches, and how people should, before consortium formation of a consortium, how people should or the agencies should actually work. So some preparatory exercises. So you have mentioned, and now this session is open for all. So whoever wants to raise any question to both the speakers, so please feel free, raise your hand and ask your question. Thank you.
Any question, please? Thank you. Can you hear me, Anuradhji?
Yeah. I can. You are audible. So now just waiting for people to raise their
So,
hands.
yeah, so there is a question in the chat box
Yeah.
raised by CSCT Welfare Association. I'll read it out. So the question is how to choose and what will be the procedure for global collaboration?
This is must be to Mr. Roy, I believe. Yeah, please, Mr. Roy, please answer.
Can you repeat the question, please? Sorry for my internet, actually. Some problem is there, actually.
Sir, it is how to choose and what will be the procedure for global collaboration.
I think he got disconnected.
I think I can respond maybe.
Yeah, Rama.
Yes, Hannah, can you please repeat the question?
Okay, so the question is like how to choose and what will be the procedures for global collaboration?
So, it depends upon the situation and that depends upon the interest area. Like, for example, the procedure would be what I was explaining to you, that you need to map out, like, for example, if you are working on DRR, and you are also the climate induced disasters, you're working in the climate induced disasters, so you need to map out what are the different networks working within the country, region, and the globally. And say, for example, like if you really want to connect with the sustainable goal network, there is a platform within the sustainable goal network. So if you go to their website, definitely you can explore. There is a network which is quite active, and you can put your initiative there, actually, that whatever you are doing, either you are working on health or any other component you are working with, so you can put that one. There is another network that is also from the United Nations as well, United Nations high level political forum, HLFPA, I think. That is also a network which you can work with. And in front of you, there is another network that is organizing this particular part, like the Climate Action Group and the Sphere India. They are the well versed with the different kind of the networks, uh, working in the region, working globally. So based on your interest, they can suggest you that what kind of the membership or what kind of the participation you would be interested for. But yes, definitely it should be first that you need to do your own homework by doing a kind of a mapping exercise. What are the different networks working or operational in the different set of the regions?
Yeah. I just wanted to add to Mr. Roy as a concern, and of course, networking is the key as a concern. I would just suggest that particularly the local CSOs, smaller CS organization, one of the better way of making ourselves visible, if we are a local smaller organization, is to create our own network. One example is there in this group already. I think Puri-Pani network, say, for example, is a process which works well. I mean, particularly in a large country like India, a district level issue-based kind of an association of the local organizations. So they will have higher visibility, and then there's a possibility of a potential funder to reach out. While we try to reach out to other networks, as Mr. Roy suggested, but if you make ourselves more visible as a force, because larger organizations, they have their own capacity to be visible in a much more bigger way. But smaller organizations can enhance their capability, their voice, and their presence in the virtual media and other kind of this one by combining themselves into a kind of either a district level or a sub-regional level, issue-based kind of a network. And that can be much more. Of course, CARN and Spare India also something similar on the issue-based network, but that can be even more localized. I mean, I got two examples. I mean, even in earlier during the super cyclone time, we developed something Puri disaster mitigation network, PDM earlier, that was quite helpful. And in other parts of this, in community forest management, nature-based solutions, there are a lot of ways we can come together. But if we can show that we are locally grounded and we have got a best capacity to deliver, and the ownership of the project is much higher compared to anybody from outside. Those strengths of a local ownership, local identification, that can be demonstrated into a collective. So that will give us a greater chances of reaching out to somebody and also winning something successfully. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you both for this nicely explaining about the question, what was asked. But both of you have said, and to the participants, I would like to request, I would love to say them that we have understood one thing, that is our own preparation is very, very important. If we fail in that, like compliance issues are there. So if we do not comply as per the national laws, so we cannot collaborate. So that is very important. So we need to give emphasis on these things also, and the issues to be identified with and to be worked with experts. So that is what both the speakers, they wanted to actually mention. They wanted to just inform us that how do we proceed. So yeah, Hannah, it is over to you. There are some questions in the chat box. Yeah.
Yes, so I would like to take one question. It's from Ravi SP. The question is long-term DRR initiatives, especially with respect to hydroclimatic hazards, include eco restoration activities. Are these initiatives in this direction? Mr. Ravi, you are also like free to ask this question directly, or if anybody wants to answer it. Yeah.
Can you restate the questions, please? I mean, in terms of what exactly is the question, I'm not able to get. I mean, so hydroclimatic, this one is there. There are nature-based solutions, part of that process. I mean, so
the question is, are this initiative in this direction? So I think he have drafted this question while hearing some of like the previous answer. So if he could come up and then
maybe I think more disasters and climate change related things are interconnected so deeply these days. For example, I mean, if you are now looking at Sundarban in the coastal areas where we have the kind of a serious cyclone related kind of disasters. So restoration of mangrove forests is an important way of strengthening the resilience in the communities, and then linking those mangrove forests to the local livelihoods would help them to build the bondage between the communities and their interest to protect and regenerate the forests as a kind of thing. So these are the kind of an initiative where the climate change and this one come together, and then there is an opportunity of how this can be used to access some of the climate related financing options, which are more and more options are going to come up in the future as a kind of thing. And it's also already coming up. There are more and more opportunities will come up, different kinds of financiers. Of course, there are some of them are driven by private sector investors with carbon funding or carbon markets based kind of this one. But in all this, one thing which we always need to be clear is that the local communities or the local that are the target group for whom we are working, their interests cannot be compromised. In a kind of, they are the primary kind of reason. So any benefit that comes from any of these market factors, so it should not be at the cost of the communities. I mean, just, but there are lots of opportunities which come up like that. Thank you.
Additionally, if you may allow, I would like to ask one question. Like it is based on like one of your sessions, where basically it's about the role of private sector in like in DRR efforts, and also when it comes to collaboration. Like as you have mentioned, I think it was Sri Ramappa who mentioned it. Like most of the private sectors do have their own CSR wings with their own mandates. So do you think that is like, so there is a lack of collaboration between the CSR works that is happening? So every private sector have their individual CSRs. So do you think, like, what is the direction do you think it's going on? Like, should there be collaborations made into these efforts?
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a very important issue at this point of time. I didn't want to get too much because the time was an issue. Yeah, but one basic, this one is, I mean, private sector is more recent in this whole disaster and humanitarian kind of reason. Humanitarian, they have been always traditionally doing some charity in the kind of a severe crisis or something like that. That was always there as a concern. But if you want to take them to the more stronger developmental kind of reason, there are a lot of CSR forum which are floating, of course. Most of them are award centric, this award, that award. So somebody would like to get among themselves, they'll get some award for themselves as part of the process. So that way there is some discussions are happening, and private sector people are also more capable of learning faster than even the traditional communities and NGO sector about the development journey. So we have to take them through a journey. It is not just about a very short immediate benefits. There is a longer term strategic value of investment in development. I mean, so that process to realize it takes for the development sector in 70s, it started from charities to now it took us so long for us to make into more maturing that development journey. So that will certainly continue to happen. And then particularly in disasters, I would like to give one example where in Bangladesh, we are particularly collaborating with the private sector in a significant way. It is basically about promoting earthquake resilience in Dhaka city as a concern. So this we have got a small eco-funded project in consortia with the DCCI, Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industries as one of the key this one. And then in which private sector, we are together with the Dhaka Chamber of Commerce, some of the local NGOs, and then Ministry of Disaster Management. Together, we are setting up a private sector emergency operation center in the Dhaka city to be able to respond. And all the private sector organizations within the Dhaka city would just like to connect to them. This is about the earthquake-related disasters, fire, or waterlogging and flooding. In that context, how that could be leveraged as a concern. So first time an initiative like that is happening in Asia for a kind of reason. So we are hoping that there will be some of the lessons learned about, I mean, continuously engaging with the private sector as under our DRR platforms together. I think that's one way we have to move on in that direction, I think, as a concern. The other part, of course, the investors direction. A lot of investors nowadays, I get mail from here and there. So we want some 200 hectares of forest restoration. Can you give me the land? I want to generate, but I want to take 60% of the carbon money to be myself. I'll give you some 20% or something as intermediary NGOs. And then I ask what goes to the communities. So those questions are not clear. And but a lot of investors who thinks that, I mean, carbon finance is a big way of getting a lot of money, which cannot be done at the cost of the communities. I mean, that's somewhere, I mean, the likelihood of some of the middle people, including NGOs sometimes becoming the middle people, might compromise some of those issues. So it's very important. We need to be reflecting on that. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, sir. So I think we have one hand raised for the last question. So Association of Rural, I can't read the rest, sir. Can you please speak up? Action.
Good afternoon, madam. Yeah, good afternoon. This is Gurudat calling. This is Gurudat speaking from Andhra Pradesh. In fact,
Okay.
I have been associated with the CARN-AP coastal area disaster mitigation efforts for the past 35 years. And in fact, in recognition of my efforts in mitigating effects of impending disasters, the UN has given me Sasaka Award in the year of 2003 and 4. In fact, my question to the panel is, in fact, we have been working on disaster preparedness for the past few years, but the efforts, disaster DRR efforts are confined to regional wise. For instance, Andhra Pradesh is most vulnerable to the cyclones and floods, and some other regions are vulnerable to other disasters. But there is no collaboration between these organizations, number one. And in fact, we are thinking about the global network about DRR. But even in India, it is not possible to collaborate with each other. That is an important point. And integrating the developmental activities with the disaster preparedness activities. This is an important point. I would like to know from the panelists, particularly how can we integrate these developmental activities with the disaster preparedness, and in addition to that one, the global warming and climate change. How can we integrate this intervention with the disaster preparedness? Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Gurudatji. Thank you so much. Hana, is it okay if I can take this question?
Sure, sir. Sure, you can.
Yes,
So
please.
thank you so much, Gurudatji. It's really fantastic to hear from you, and this is so true, actually, that as I have mentioned in my deliberation also, that the way the humanitarian response got the attention globally, the DRR, not only in globally, anywhere, it has not got that particular importance. One of the reason behind that particular thing, Gurudatji, is that when we as a donor, I mean, I'm representing a donor, that's why I can say on behalf of the donor agency also, that when we go to the different constituents or the different groups, because they are giving that particular money to us, and then this particular money goes to all of you. Usually what happens is that the any particular humanitarian response, when humanitarian crisis happened, and there are two categories. One, humanitarian crisis, which has got the international media attention. So those humanitarian response part, which are getting the international media attention, we are definitely getting a very good response from the international community. And we are very fast moving towards that particular thing. Whereas there are so many different other the disasters, which is level 1, level 2 disaster, they are not getting those international attention, the media attention. Sometimes it is very difficult to raise the funds for those particular disasters. We are trying our level best to do that, but it is difficult. Now, the third category is the disaster risk reduction. I would take that particular blame to myself also, that it is our responsibility to educate the final donors, or the final, the people who are finally giving the money to us, to educate about the benefits of the disaster risk reduction. As because the disaster risk reduction is not exactly emotionally attached with the giving giving purpose. Actually, we are not getting that good response anywhere, particularly in the disaster risk reduction component, number one. The second category, I would say that if you see globally, locally, or regionally, we have not categorized the disaster risk reduction interventions as per their geography. For example, like in India, there is a huge coastline.
Yeah.
And what kind of the things are happening within that particular coastline? Coral reefs, the restoration coral reefs or something like that. What exactly is happening? There must be good things are happening, but as because there is no association or no collaboration, which is highlighting, there might be collaboration, but that is not coming to the regional level or the global level. My suggestion would be that we need to take a action at this particular time to combine our efforts as a group. And with that particular group, whatever we are doing, we need to highlight that particular thing regionally and globally. And this will be the evidences for all of us, like people like us who are reaching to the final donor, who are really contributing that particular thing, that, hey guys, along with the humanitarian response part, disaster risk reduction is also important, and these are the benefits. These are the examples happening across the globe, and these are the gaps through which we need to cover those areas. We need the money for that. So these are the areas on which we need to work. Actually, I believe I have answered your question, Gurudat.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you so much for the question. So I think, Aniruddha sir, do you have to add anything? Do you want to add
No, Hannah, it is actually fine. It's time is also
So-
we need to see. So
Yes.
it was very good introduction. So please.
Sure. Yeah. So we actually had a really, as Sir said, we had a very good discussion today. So like just to like when looking back, we got a good brief history on where this collaboration actually started and the different perspectives of the funding and the availability and how the collaboration impacts, and also funding alternatives, like we discussed about it, and also about how collaboration is impacting the SDGs. And we also got several suggestions for building and enhancing collaborations, especially for the local organizations. It was also interesting to hear about the role of private sector and also the gaps that is existing between the funding and the current disaster needs in terms of the proportion of people affected. So altogether, it was a very informative like discussion. There's a lot of key takeaways and important call to actions which we need to take ahead. So before, like without any further delay, I would like to welcome Mr. Umakant Mohanty, convener of Puri Pani Network, for the vote of thanks. Sir, you'll have to unmute your mic. Just press that red.
You have to just click on the speaker, the unmute.
Sir, just bottom corner.
उमा भाई आपण से ये देखो तो अनम्यूट कर दियंतु
Maybe Hannah, you can take control as an admin and be able to unmute.
Yeah, I have asked him to unmute. He just have to press an OK. So. Sir, like
okay.
Mr. Umakanda. Yeah.
Mr. Umakant.
No, maybe Hannah, you will be able to do
Hello
unmute on your side. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, I speak right. Thanks to all. This is a very good discussion. I thanks to everybody to behalf the Pani. I learned this point. Thanks everybody.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Yeah. So once again, I would like to extend my deepest thank you to both the speakers. It was a wonderful session, and we feel privileged to hear from you, from your expertise. Thank you so much. And also to our moderator, even with the short notice, Doctor, you have taken up the job very well. You have organized, you moderated it so well. Thank you so much for that. And on behalf of Sphere, I would also like to thank, officially thank CARN-AP for the collaboration. We had a series of 8 sessions, and as I've told before, this would be the last one in the series. We have definitely benefited a lot from this collaboration. We were able to successfully conduct 8 webinars on very different topics, bring in a lot of new speakers and hear from all of them. Thank you so much, sir. We hope to collaborate more, and there are more sessions coming up. We have a very tight week in April. So looking forward to see you all there too. And once again, thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.